Single dad janitor was insulted by the billionaire CEO. Then a tattoo revealed his true identity. The conference room gleamed with marble floors and glass walls that caught every reflection. Everything looked perfect, except for the man on his knees, scrubbing coffee stains off the floor. Ethan Cole, 38, a janitor with tired eyes and calloused hands, worked quietly as people in suits walked past him like he didn't exist. He'd taken the job 6 months ago, desperate to support his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, after losing everything in a company bankruptcy that no one knew he used to own. "Watch where you're mopping," snapped a sharp voice. Ethan looked up to see Natalie Whitmore, 32, the CEO of Whitmore Enterprises, confident, polished and cold as the diamonds on her wrist. Her heels clicked dangerously close to his bucket. "Do you mind? I have a meeting in 2 minutes, and I'd rather not smell bleach on my way to closing a billion-dollar deal." Ethan gave a humble nod. "Of course, ma'am. Sorry for the inconvenience." Natalie rolled her eyes. "You janitors really should learn how to stay out of people's way." The room went silent. Several employees froze, embarrassed. Ethan just smiled faintly and moved aside, continuing his work. Later that day, Natalie's world shifted. As she left her office, she slipped on the freshly polished floor, twisting her ankle with a painful cry. Instantly, Ethan dropped his mop and rushed over. "Don't move," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "You might have strained it." I'm fine," she stammered, shocked he was helping after how she'd treated him. But Ethan gently lifted her foot, wrapping it in his handkerchief. "You should get ice on this right away." Natalie studied him closely for the first time. His calm tone, his steady hands, and the small tattoo on his wrist that peeked from under his sleeve. A phoenix wrapped around a letter C. Her eyes widened. "That tattoo. I've seen it before." Ethan froze. He hadn't meant to reveal it. "That's the logo of Cole Dynamics," she whispered. "The tech company that collapsed last year?" "You're Ethan Cole," he said quietly. "Former CEO." The air seemed to leave the room. Natalie couldn't believe it. The man she'd just insulted for being a janitor was once one of the youngest self-made billionaires in America. But, "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice trembling. He gave a faint smile. "Because when my company went down, I lost everything except my daughter. She wanted me to find a job, any job, so I could buy her crayons for school again. So here I am." Tears welled in Natalie's eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't know." Ethan shook his head gently. "You don't have to apologize. Sometimes life puts us on the floor just to remind us how to stand up again." That evening, Natalie called him to her office. She had learned something about humility that day. "I read your patents," she said softly. "Your ideas were ahead of their time. If you're willing, I'd like you to join Whitmore as head of innovation. Not as a favor, because you deserve it." Ethan looked stunned. "You'd do that after everything?" She smiled sincerely. "Everyone deserves a second chance, especially those who never stop trying." Months later, Ethan arrived at work in a suit, no longer pushing a mop, but leading a department. The same employees who once ignored him now greeted him with respect. And Natalie? She never passed a janitor again without saying thank you. As he walked into his new office, Lily's drawing hung on the wall, 2 stick figures holding hands under a big shining sun. She had written in messy crayons, "My daddy is my hero." And for the first time in a long while, Ethan believed it. 6 months later, the sun spilled through the tall windows of Whitmore Tower, glinting off the new sign outside. Whitmore Cole Innovations. Yes, Natalie and Ethan were now partners, not just in business but in rebuilding what corporate greed had once destroyed, humanity in business. Ethan sat in his new office, still humble as ever. His desk wasn't cluttered with awards or luxury pens, just Lily's photo and a little paper crane she'd folded for good luck. A knock came on the door. Natalie stepped in, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Still taking it black, I assume?" she teased. Ethan smiled. Some habits never change. She sat across from him, a softness in her eyes that hadn't been there months ago. "You know," she said quietly, "when I first met you, I thought you were just a janitor. But turns out you cleaned more than the floors. You cleaned my arrogance. Ethan chuckled. Life's funny that way. It humbles us before it rewards us. Just then, Lily ran into the office, curly-haired, bright-eyed, clutching a tiny notebook. Daddy, Miss Whitmore said I can show you my idea. Ethan lifted her onto his lap. Your idea? She opened the notebook to reveal a childish drawing of a robot holding a broom. It's a helper robot. It cleans the floor and talks nicely to people. Natalie laughed warmly. Looks like the next generation of innovation starts early. Ethan looked at Lily's drawing, a simple vision of kindness through technology, and nodded. Let's build it. But only if you're the lead designer. Her eyes sparkled. Really? He grinned. Really. A year later, the Phoenix bot became one of the most talked about inventions in the country, not because it was advanced, but because it carried a message. Each robot had Ethan's Phoenix logo and a tiny engraved line that read, "Everyone deserves a second chance." News outlets picked up the story. From janitor to genius, the man who built hope from the ground up. But Ethan never bragged. Instead, he used part of his profits to start a foundation that helped single parents find jobs, housing, and education. He named it Lily's Light. At the opening ceremony, Natalie stood beside him. Cameras flashed, but Ethan's eyes were fixed on his daughter in the crowd, smiling proudly. Ethan, Natalie whispered, you've changed this company. And me, he looked at her gently. We both changed because kindness is contagious. That night, when the guests had left and the city lights flickered below, Ethan walked alone through the quiet halls of Whitmore Coal. He stopped by the janitor's closet, the same one where it all began. The mop still leaned in the corner. The same bucket, the same scent of cleaning fluid. Ethan smiled, whispering to himself, never forget where you started, because that's what makes where you are so meaningful. He closed the door softly and walked back toward the future he'd built from humility, compassion, and faith in second chances.